it got to the point where I was struggling with it enough that I said, enough is enough. It's that self motivation, but it's a vacation mentality for me that I had to get over. And it took 40 years to do. But I think that impatience, to some extent, was part of my motivation when I was building, like that, the ability to push through no matter what was something great in my youth. As I've gotten older, what you find is you can't run at that pace. It's like sprinting miles. You know, when you sprint miles, you'll exhaust yourself, and you'll never be able to run at that pace. But when you're an endurance runner, you learn to slow down, find your rhythm, find your breath, and I think to some extent we all go through some of that. And maybe some of us achieve it earlier than others. I have always struggled a little bit with patience and with being quiet and staying still and waiting. But I find that bigger goals, you have to make incremental decisions to move towards them, but you can't force them or they won't happen. And so it's not a never eating the marshmallow mentality. It's more of a I I don't care when I eat the marshmallow as long as I get to eat the marshmallow.
Yeah.
And so maybe there's three or four marshmallows, and they've gotten a lot smaller. It used to be 20 marshmallows. Now there's three or four, and we're focusing on achieving them, but the time can be a little elongated.
Yes, I love this. Patience is basically associated with so many good things in life. People that are more patient, they are healthier, they are more successful professionally, they are better able to maintain relationships with spouses, with friends, and so on. So, patience is definitely the key. And one thing that helps being patient is that you can enjoy the present. You derive satisfaction. And this is when we ask ourselves, did I take this call because I wanted to be on the other side or because I want to be the person who is doing it? Okay, so how much value do I get from walking there? Okay, as opposed to the value from being on the other side of it. And another thing that highly motivated people know is that it's really important to set goals that you will feel satisfied pursuing. And to give you an example, we just last summer published a paper with over 2,000 people who set New Year's resolutions. And then my co-author, Caitlin Worley, analyzed how well they were able to control and maintain their goals throughout the year. And the people who set goals that they were looking forward to doing, okay, that were enjoyable, that were satisfying, were the people that were able to stick with these goals. There was also variance in how important these goals were, okay, how much people wanted to be on the other side. And that unfortunately did not predict adherence.
It's very hard. It's very hard, and I've always known that most of the people that are setting these New Year's resolutions aren't achieving them. They because it's one of those things where they're using a obscure date to decide that they're going to do something different, and then it doesn't often continue, or something comes out that gets in the way. It's funny. I use the word grace a lot, and personally, and it's because if I'm traveling a lot for work, there might be a moment where I'm home for 2 consecutive weeks, but then I'm on the road for 2 consecutive weeks. And when you're working out and you have a schedule and you do the same thing every day and you're at home, you have all of your stuff there. It's very easy, right? And then the minute you go on the road, you're in one place has a great gym, the next place has an awful gym. One place has a great city to walk, another place has a rougher place that maybe you don't want to walk around. Like, these are all things that are challenging. And as again, another thing that I tell myself often with goals or achievements or anything I'm working towards is you must have grace. And I don't think too many people have grace when it comes to New Year's resolutions. The minute that they start to fail, they quit. And I know I've done it many times, but as I've gotten older, I've learned if I want something, just have grace that maybe this week was off, but next week we pick it back up.
Yeah, so that's another strategy. So we talked about one thing that enables stamina is that you want to be walking the road. Okay, you don't want to just get to the other side. You want to be the person who is doing it. You want to be the person who is leading a healthy lifestyle. You don't want to be the person who will look back and say, I didn't eat something. Okay, doing it as opposed to being on the other side. But it's also interesting that you mentioned how much that the situational cues matter. Okay, and like while we definitely want to have grace and we definitely want to be able to go back after we had maybe an unsuccessful experience, maybe a setback, okay, maybe even a failure. Also, we want to understand that we do respond to the situation. I was smiling when you said that you don't, or that you find it hard to exercise when you're not at home. You are describing my life. Okay, I exercise every morning when I at home. I wake up at 6 a.m. and I exercise until 7 a.m. And then I travel somewhere, and it doesn't matter if they have a gym or they don't have a gym. My routine is off. I do not exercise. Okay, I would bring my shoes and my gear and would never get it out of my luggage. And I learned to forgive myself and also understand that, boy, I respond to situational cues. If the alarm goes off at home, that means exercising. If it goes off in the hotel, that means where's my coffee?
Yeah, it's funny. You know what I've learned is I struggled. I've been traveling quite a bit for 3 years. I was traveling a good amount before, but it's been a little bit excessive in the last couple of years. And I learned this one thing about myself. I think because I grew up never going on vacation and not traveling at all, that every time I traveled for 20 years, it was a vacation. And if I hear vacation, it means pause, stop, relax, enjoy. And I didn't do that all the time. So I really focused hard on doing that. And then I started to travel a lot with work and business, and I was still really in vacation mode. When I would go somewhere, even if I was working the entire time, I could not I wanted that extra hour. I wanted that extra minute or, so I had to start telling myself, you can make moments of vacation wherever you are, but the one thing I can't give up is I cannot give up my ability to be the kind of person that I want to be, which is healthy. And I guess it got to the point where I was struggling with it enough that I said enough is enough. Now I go to the crappy gym, and even if I do 20 minutes and I do 100 or 200 jumping jacks, 30 pull-ups, 100 push-ups, I just make up my own thing, and it's awful and I don't like it, and then I leave, but I feel so much better about myself once I do it. And so it's that self motivation, but it's a vacation mentality for me that I had to get over. And it took 40 years to do that.
I love that. A couple of strategies that you mentioned. One is just reframing what that is. Okay, is it vacation? Is it life? Okay, is it break? Is it my routine? And once you realize that this is not a vacation, not a break, then everything that applies to life applies here. The other strategy which I really like, because this is actually where I started my work. This is going all the way back to my PhD dissertation, is anticipating things in advance. Okay? Yeah, and knowing in advance that that's going to be difficult, okay, that it's going to be tempting not to do it is often the way to make sure that things get done. And my example here is when you anticipate that something is going to be heavy. Okay, this box dropped in the porch of your house. This is heavy. You are going to lift it with more power. You will not hurt your back. Okay, if you think that our meeting is going to be tense, okay? Maybe I will be very emotional. Then you will not become very emotional and you will not lose your temper and you will know how to deal with it. When you anticipate that when you get to this town somewhere, you will not want to exercise, well, when you get there, you already have a plan. Yeah, it's not going to feel great, but I'm doing it nonetheless. And like, I still believe that this is one of the effective motivational strategies.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, and I think I altered my goals. So maybe I'm not lifting the same weights, but maybe if I'm in a city like New York, I'm getting 10 to 15,000 steps as I walk around, maybe even 20,000 steps, and so I'm active. And so I also reframed my brain to be active, not just working out. And those are two; they can be similar, but they're not always the same. And so movement is the non-negotiable. And and I also think what you said there that's really important is visualizing not only the good things that you want in a situation, but also visualizing the things that might not be so good. So if I'm going to have to bend down deeper and lift heavier, I'm also going to have the ability to anticipate that. And so I've flown in the last 2 weeks. It's been the worst couple of flying episodes I've had in a long time. I've been diverted where the airport shuts down, weather is bad. I'm at the airport, and then they take me to another city. Now, once I went to the other city, and it was an hour flight for a connection, and I ended up in Charleston Air Force Base, and then I still had it. It was it turned into a 5 hour flight. By the time the 1 hour flight was a 5 hour flight, and then I had a 5 hour flight across country to California. But I had looked at the weather. I was aware it was going to be a little rough. I was kind of frustrated, but it wasn't one of those things I could control. And then the next time this past week, same thing happens. I'm above LaGuardia, and we can't land. We're going to Philly. Everybody's losing it on the plane. There's no more flights that are going into New York for the night. So you're now in Philly. Philly is not New York. And for those of you that are in New York, Philly is nothing like New York. But I immediately started to reframe and found a train, got back to where I needed to be. It was a little arduous. It wasn't fun. But because in the summertime, I anticipate travel to be challenging, I book earlier flights. My brain is visualizing what's probably going to be happening, and I'm preparing to lift that heavier package. Even though I don't like it, I
Yeah.
don't want it to happen, I'm aware that if it does, I'm prepared. So YouTube has this cool feature where they pick the next video for you, and it's right here on this screen. So I hope you enjoy this next video.